I just love the smell of fresh cut flowers. Oh, hey, my name's Jessica and I'm a STEM educator. What I love even more than my gardens outside is teaching people about STEM. Most importantly, to kind of clear up some miscommunications about what the scientific method is in comparison to the engineering design process. So I want to do that today in this video. So I bet you're wondering why I'm dressed so weirdly. I promise I'll explain it in a second. So as an educator, I use both of these processes in my classroom, but you can also use these in your home and in everyday lives. We have to clear up some areas that might not be so clear. The scientific method, typically we think of chemists in a lab. They're following specific protocols and step-by-step directions so they all get the same product at the end. It's also known as an investigation. Within the scientific method, if I was to do an experiment, I'm really trying to figure out why something is happening. So, for an example, since I love gardens so much, maybe I noticed this past spring that I didn't get enough pollinators to make my flowers as beautiful as last year. So I could do an investigation using the scientific method to figure out why they aren't coming to my gardens as much as they were last year. On the other side, the engineering design process is used most specifically by engineers and other STEM professionals to specifically solve a problem. But the great thing is we can use this process in something called design thinking in our everyday lives. The question engineers ask in the EDP is what and how. They're really trying to figure out how something is working or how they can improve something to solve a real world problem. Today, I'm going to focus on the engineering design process. So, often misunderstood is how to use this process to solve a problem. So, I'm going to use the example today of my pollinators. So, within this process, we've already talked about the very first step, which is to define the problem. We already know in my gardens, I don't have enough pollinators coming to make my flowers as beautiful as they used to be. So what I would do first is maybe collect some observations. I would sit in my gardens at specific times of the day. I'd have a notebook, I'd have a pad. I can do some real world investigations and observations to start to get some more information. This step is very important because it helps me then to start to plan solutions. So another part of this is I could actually do some more research online of maybe my specific zone of where I'm living. It might not be maybe as good for the pollinators to come for the types of flowers that I have. Or I'm not getting enough sunlight. These two steps go hand in hand. You have to do your research to help gather information to start thinking about how you're going to solve the problem. Just like how number one helps number two, the third step, make a model, is all based on your understanding of solutions you've thought of, which go back to your background knowledge. This make a model is usually the most fun part. This is where I could take some homemade or household products that I have from back in the plan solutions phase, where I would first draw using maybe some markers or some crayons or colored pencils. I could draw some examples of how I would want to maybe make a container to maybe give my pollinators some water. That might have been an idea I saw I don't have enough water in my gardens for my little pollinators to hop from flower to flower or from garden to garden. So after I designed or I drew some pictures of how I want this to look, I could then physically make a model. I could cut the cup to make sure that the little bees won't fall in so they can't get out. I could use other materials I have in my house, maybe colors I know that butterflies like a lot. After that step is again another important part of the process, testing this model. If I've created this model to help solve my problem, I need to see if it works. But before we leave and go to the next step, I want to make sure everyone understands, just because I have numbers in my process, this is more of a circle or a cycle. At any time, I can go back to a different phase to help improve my model after I've tested it. I might want to see if I need to plan for a different solution after I test my model. Lastly is the reflect and redesign phase. As I've already mentioned, I might realize that what I designed is not working. Guys, and that's okay. Something that I tell my students all the time and teachers that I work with, it is okay to make mistakes. Parents, it is okay for your child to make mistakes when they're making their model, they're planning their solutions. The great thing about this, you can again go back to any phase of the process. But the most important thing I want you all to get out of this video today is to not give up. If your model's not working, it's okay. Redesign, reflect. That reflect piece means you are looking back at what you've researched to seeing if it works and how you can make your model better. So, since I have some ideas about how I want to help my pollinators, I hope you've gotten a better understanding of how you can use the engineering design process. Remember, you can use this for problems in your own house, your yard, your school, your community. So I guess I need to go get saving some bees and some butterflies. Have fun.